Welcome to The Bureau, the official podcast of the International UFO Bureau. Founded in 1957 and reimagined for today, we're fusing decades of discovery with next-gen tech to uncover the truth about unidentified anomalous phenomena. Join Executive Director Terry Keel, CEO Mindy Totfest, and Director of Research Melissa Madrigal. 3 generations, 1 mission: to investigate the unknown and bring the truth into focus. This is The Bureau.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to The Bureau, where 3 generations of women come together to discuss the truth behind unidentified anomalous phenomena. I'm Mindy Totfest, and I'm joined by my 2 co-hosts, Miss Terry Lynne Kitei and Miss Melissa Madrigal. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys? I'm so glad to be here once again.
Me too. This is really going to be an exciting show tonight with Dr. Lynne. So excited. Glad to be here.
I was so excited whenever you told me that you were going to have her on and you had called her. And I was like, yes, because it's been a while since I've gotten to speak with her. And she had sent over her entire slideshow. And as I was going through it, there is so much to discuss, but we're going to try and move quickly and get in as much as possible. We already know we're going to have to bring her back for a part 2 because this woman's relentless with all of the things that she's gathered together in relation to the Phoenix Lights. And we're coming up on the anniversary here in a few months. So, well, I guess in March. So it'll,
March.
We're more than halfway there.
yeah, we are. We're getting close. We might have to have her on 3 times, actually.
I know. Right. So, Melissa, I know you've been looking at some of the UFO history that's happened during this week. What all have you found?
I'll go ahead and give you guys a rundown.
Yeah.
So back on September 14th, 1972, in Palm Beach, Florida, a UFO described as a cigarette shape was actually detected on radar and visually confirmed over at Palm Beach International Airport. F-106 fighters were scrambled to interception, but just like that, the object disappeared before they could even reach it. When radar hits and visual confirmation line up like that, I feel like it gets so real. And the fact that the jets were launched means that this was taken really seriously. And as with so many other cases, the target vanished, leaving behind only radar echoes and questions.
Right.
Also on September 14th in 1994, something spectacular lit up the skies over southern Africa. A blazing fireball with multiple lights and a trailing spark was seen streaking across Zimbabwe, I think it's called Botswana, and Zambia. So it was so intense, it produced a sonic boom, and it's still one of the most dramatic aerial events in African UFO history. This actually wasn't an isolated light in the sky. It was an atmospheric event witnessed across 3 different countries. And with that sonic boom, that suggests something powerful, something moving with force that we still don't fully understand.
Absolutely.
Now, a little later in the month, but still within the same historic window, on September 19th, 1976, the now famous Tehran UFO incident took place, obviously, in Iran. 2 Iranian F-4 pilots approached a bright, unidentified object. And when they did, their instruments started failing. And the moment they pulled away, everything returned back to normal. So this case was serious enough to be reported to the U.S. Joint Chief of Staff. And it still is considered one of the most credible military encounters on record. So this is one of those cornerstone cases when a malfunction like that happens mid-air and then clears up as soon as the pilot retreats. I believe it's interaction and the fact that it was that it escalated to the top UFO officials. I think that tells us everything about its weight.
Right. Yeah.
Wow,
isn't it
all
something?
these later, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
I know. It's amazing. So much.
Well, and thank you for that, Melissa, because that helps me even fill in some of the blanks. I mean, as much as I know about UFO history, I'm constantly learning from you and the things that you're bringing to the forefront. So I appreciate that. Whenever Terry had mentioned incorporating some of the UFO history into the podcast, it was a wonderful idea, Terry. You
Mhm.
were spot on, like always. So,
Yes, she's
Thank you.
always, yeah.
I'll tell you,
Aw.
I know we've all been watching the UAP hearing that just happened out in DC, and I wanted to give just a quick update. And I'm just going to kind of glance off my notes here so I don't leave anything out. Some of the top things that happened during that hearing were the Hellfire missile bouncing off the UAP. And it says a previously classified video was released to Congress capturing a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone firing a Hellfire missile at a glowing orb off the coast of Yemen. Astonishingly, the missile appeared to rebound off of the object, which remained
Crazy.
damaged and continued on its way.
Yeah.
This implies that the footage challenges our current defense assumptions by suggesting UAPs may possess advancements beyond known human technology. It's being framed as a tangible threat that underscores the urgency for enhanced sensor systems and transparency. Another top issue was whistleblower testimonies highlighting retaliation and data gaps. Multiple veterans testified about unexplained UAP incidents, such as large hovering objects and tic-tac-shaped craft that they had encountered. They also stressed the lack of protective mechanisms for whistleblowers and the need for clearer reporting pathways. And I know, Terry, that's something you and I have worked on behind the scenes for years to bring forth the whistleblower protections and to even help whistleblowers such as our own Dr. Gregory Rogers come forward with his testimony. So, and the whistleblowers point to obstructed transparency and hidden data. Journalist George Knapp revealed that compelling UAP information, like the missile UAP footage, languishes in secure military servers without access to Congress or the public. And that's something we've suspected and known about for years.
Yeah.
It's good that George spoke about it, though, and brought it forward, and it's on record now, actually calling them out and saying, hey, we know that there's stuff that you're hiding from us. So, so I just wanted to give that quick recap, and we'll be watching for the next one to be scheduled and see how far it takes us.
And just to mention that Hellfire, the fact that it was shot at and it just kept going, I think that does speak volumes about the fact that that isn't a threat, because if it wanted to, it could literally, knock that other vehicle right out of the sky in a second. So I think we need to consider that, and that's all I'll say about that.
It just deflected. That's it. Didn't retaliate, so that's good. So
not a real serious threat at the moment, anyway. But it certainly could be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we should move along and welcome in our guests, because I know we have a lot to discuss today. So Terry, will you please tell us a little bit about Dr. Lynne?
I sure will. And boy, there is so much to tell. This woman is amazing. So Dr. Lynne Kitei is an internationally acclaimed physician, health educator, and award-winning documentary filmmaker, best known for her groundbreaking work on the Phoenix Lights, which we'll be talking about, and a key witness to the historic March 13th, 97 mass sighting in Arizona. Dr. Kitei came forward after 7 years of anonymity to share her experience, and has since become one of the most recognized voices of the event, literally. And she's the author of the Phoenix Light book and the creator of the internationally acclaimed documentary of the same name. And she's dedicated her career to bringing scientific credibility with public awareness on one of the most compelling UFO cases in history. She has so many accolades. I'll mention a few here. She's appeared on hundreds, literally, of national and international TV and radio shows, including Coast to Coast, News Nation, Tamron Hall, Spotify, CNN, ABC, CBS, and Fox. All TV news networks, Netflix, iTunes, Comcast, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, the History and the Science channels, and Discovery and National Geographic. And there is so much more. She links to Dr. Lynn's third edition of her best-selling Phoenix Lights, A Skeptic's Discovery That We Are Not Alone book, the award-winning Phoenix Lights Beyond Top Secret documentary, plus the Phoenix Lights graphic novel activities coloring book, and so many more. So, without further ado, let's bring her on. Oh my gosh. You're an
Hello,
enigma.
beautiful ladies. Let me
Hi,
tell you,
Dr.
I
Lynn.
congratulate you guys. Not only are you beautiful, all three of you, but to have this going on with you ladies, and you're also talented and knowledgeable. And the number three is very indigenous to my experience with the Phoenix Lights as well. So it
Oh.
keeps on showing up. But I do want to just say one thing. Terry, you hit on something really, really important, talking about the latest try
Hellfire?
to shoot down one of
Yeah.
these orbs.
Mhm.
Is that there has not been one. This is really important and comforting. There has not been one credible
Right.
report of harm, threat, or abduction or missing time that I'm sorry, missing persons that one movie did associated with the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. I can't speak for other things, but I
Right.
can for the Phoenix Lights, and orbs are also a big part of the Phoenix Lights, which we'll
Right.
discuss. So I
Amazing.
just want to get that out there because that was really important. And one of the main reasons I came forward after 7 years of anonymity was to allay the fear in people. If anything, it's the opposite. People were in awe and in wonder. And I still have people telling me that they feel blessed to have had the
Oh,
experience. So we
sure.
can get into that. And I'm doing a
Yeah.
study that actually is
Yeah.
confirming, a scientific study that's confirming that data. So we can get into that a little later if you'd like.
Sure. Well, I think Melissa had, we're going to start with her today to start asking some really wonderful questions. Everybody wants to know more about you all the time. So, Melissa, take it away.
Yeah, well, Dr. Kitei, I thank you for joining us today first. Could you start by sharing a bit about your professional background in medicine and how that journey eventually led you into documenting the Phoenix Lights?
Actually, that's a great question because it's very ironic that I have dedicated my life's work since 1976 to community education of vital health issues. And it's a long, long story, but when this fell in my lap, literally and figuratively, and I have a company that produces video and workbook curriculums on vital health issues that distributed by Discovery Education for years, all award-winning on AIDS and teen pregnancy and substance abuse prevention education that is worldwide. And when this fell in my lap, I had no interest or knowledge at all in this topic. And I had to educate myself. We can get into, more of the story because our first sighting was in 1995, a very close sighting. And I've always believed that education is the best protection. And once
I would agree.
that happened, and I knew nothing about it, and I got pictures while these were happening, while they were cloaking right in front of us, right outside our bedroom window. And if anybody's interested, they could go to the Phoenix Lights Network website, thephoenixlights.net photo page, and take a look at my unique collection of 35 millimeter. No one else has 35 millimeter that have been analyzed and authenticated as true unknowns by university
Wow.
and military optical experts. I've really gone to great lengths to have my data verified, and I'm looking for a logical explanation. I have yet
Sure.
to find one, and it's almost 30 years later,
I know.
and certainly
Geez.
30 years since I had my first sighting. So, there is so much to the story, a lot of mis and disinformation that I hope we can clear some of that up today.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned
Perfect.
that this happened in 1997, and it's been
Yeah.
almost 30 years.
Yeah.
That hurt, Dr. Kitei. I just realized it's been almost 30 years since I graduated high school.
There you go.
So this was happening right at that time, and I remember
Yeah.
seeing it all over the news and everything. And I never would I imagine 30 years later I'd be sitting here talking to you,
Oh
who
my
was one
goodness.
of the main witnesses. So could
Yeah.
you walk us through kind of your personal experience that night and what exactly you saw?
Well, as I mentioned, 2 years before, my husband and I had a very close sighting of these orbs in a pyramid formation right outside our bedroom
Wow.
window, and each one cloaked and I took pictures of them
Amazing.
and wondered for 2 years what this advanced technology was. I knew nothing about this topic, and I didn't even know who to show the picture to. One picture turned out at the time, I subsequently realized that the 35 millimeter, they're in the strips, they're in negative. They cannot be fudged or denied.
Right.
But I wondered for 2 years what this advanced technology was. And actually, 2 months before the mass sighting, people don't know that unless they study my own data. Even seasoned ufologists aren't aware of this data. 2 months before, that's one of the pictures I took, the same exact phenomenon that I would also capture on video, signature video that night during the mass sighting 2 months later, appeared, these UAP appeared at a distance. I hadn't seen them for 2 years, and here they appear at a distance, January 97. Now, if you go back to the first one that you had there, to me, that was a smoking gun. That's the second picture. Actually, the first picture, if you look on the photo page, is wavy because, no.
Nope.
Go back. The first picture I took that night, by the time I got my camera out there, because it was just, the first picture is wavy because I was shaking, but not having an explanation for 95. I was wondering, oh my God, this is massive. I mean, it was massive across. And as I kept shooting, thank goodness, this is a second picture, which to me, again, is the smoking gun because it looks like a V of 5 lights with 2 underneath.
Yes.
Actually, thousands of people 2 months later would describe during the mass sighting 5 lights in a V formation with 2 trailing lights was what they were seeing. And as the lights underneath started to disappear, if you want to go to the next picture, the top formation seemed to turn into a V. And then the last picture, after the 3 disappeared underneath, is really interesting because not only does it look like each one in between is larger than the one in between it. Well, the next morning it was so unnerving that I called around, found the air traffic controllers at Sky Harbor International Airport, who saw the same thing. They were very forthcoming initially, saw the same thing that I was filming. And they shared with me it was 1,000 feet altitude over Class B restricted airspace. This is right over the tarmac. And the I don't believe in coincidence anymore. A lot of
Right.
serendipities. One of them
Very true.
one of them was a meteorologist and said that the entire thing, and he described it as 6 points of light totally equidistant from each other, massive span over a mile wide, that seemed to be attached to something, but they couldn't quite see what these lights were attached to. And you would hear that again 2 months later during the mass sighting, where there was a force field holding them in rock solid formation, turned as a unit against the wind. That is very telling.
It
Against the
is.
wind, elevated,
Right.
he said, as a unit, and in synchrony moved slowly behind South Mountain. So I said, so what was it? And there was silence. And then he said, beats me. I said, you're an air traffic controller. You're supposed to do it in an airspace.
You should
He
know
said
this.
yes, this whole group ruled out every conventional aircraft, balloons, Chinese lanterns, flares, even skydivers with lights. And we kept in
Yes.
communication up until and including March 13th. Okay, now March 13th was just another night for me. Unbeknownst to me, there were thousands of people outside looking up at the sky at the Hale-Bopp comet, which I did as well.
Oh,
And I
yes.
also saw some lights appear about 8:30, but I had so much in the can from the weeks before that I didn't run in to take pictures of it. But about 9:30, about 20 of 10, when they show the promo for the 10 o'clock news, suddenly I see the same exact phenomena pop up in a line at a distance that I saw 2 months before. And I was told by the photographic developer that there was nothing in the pictures. They couldn't find anything at the time. But of course, we went back and
Ah.
found them. But I was excited that I could get something on film. So I grabbed my video camera this time. I get out on the balcony and it was out of focus. And by the time I focused, the 6 lights had turned to 3. And if you see the 3 lights in a V formation, that's my video, which has now become a signature video to the mass sighting. Important also is that my video and another video that's like a V of 5 lights, an arrowhead, were shot before 10 o'clock. And we'll get to this because I know later we're going to talk about the only explanation they ever came up with. After 10 o'clock, there were 2 boomerang videos shot, and we can get to that later because they're the ones that have been under fire for being flares.
Wow. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because
Yes.
my mic was acting weird. I
Yes.
wanted to ask you a question.
Terry and et al., would you like me to describe what people saw during the mass sighting?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you want me to go ahead and show your slides?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Because the video is the thing I captured on March 13th. Again, unbeknownst to me, while thousands of people were outside looking up at the Hale-Bopp comet, which was very clear in the northwest sky that night, they also got a glimpse of 1 to 8 miles wide. People don't know this. Peter Davenport, for the director of the National UFO Reporting Center, during the 20th anniversary, we were in Oregon at the Ming Mingville conference, and he announced, because we were celebrating the 20th, that from his data, and he got hundreds and hundreds of pictures and reports, that one of these objects was 8 miles wide. Think about that one. And it wasn't just lights. That's the important thing. It wasn't just lights. It was also craft. And again, if you go to the Phoenix Lights Network website, go to the GAP page, and if you'd like to show some of those pictures, a 12-year study, hundreds of reports, where 2 or more people had to see the same craft to be in the study. There were 10 different crafts. Now, whether it was one craft that could morph and look differently, or the perspective from where the person was standing, or a parade. And ultimately, that's what was concluded because, again, it wasn't just 1 or 2 events, as you would hear in the media. They picked up on that 8 to 10 time period when most people were outside. And then when they saw something unusual, they called the news stations and whatever. It actually started 3 p.m. in the afternoon, daylight sightings in Arizona. 5 o'clock hour in New Mexico, Native Americans were reporting the same thing. The 7 to 10 o'clock hour in California, 10 to 11 o'clock hour, there were 2 commercial airline pilots that described one of these craft actually covered Las Vegas. And then the sightings continued all the way until 5:30 the next morning. A Boeing crew, and I got it straight from the head of the Boeing crew, came into Sky Harbor for the day. And one of these crafts was hovering right over their tarmac. So we're talking over a dozen hours and at least 4 states, because I'm doing a scientific study now, and it's mind-boggling what we're finding out worldwide. But there are more people that also saw it on March 13th in Texas, in Utah, and Colorado. So, I mean, it's over a dozen hours, at least 4 states. But of course, the Phoenix Lights climax finale, whatever you want to call it, has made great news and became known as the Phoenix Lights.
It was just really quite an event. It really was. It was like they were ready to expose and show themselves regardless of what was happening with the government, the government and disclosure and that sort of thing. Let me ask you, what is the importance of consciousness and understanding this phenomenon? And how does that perspective fit alongside scientific and governmental investigations?
Okay, that's a great question too, Terry, because half my book is about this. Half the book is about the nuts and bolts, because the nuts and bolts are mind-boggling. Technology itself, we didn't even get into that because of people gliding. We're talking 1 to 8 miles wide with no sound. Some people saw it take off at blink speed without even dispersing the air. Other people, if you look at those pictures on the GAP page, Geospatial Animation Project, one of the crafts split in 2 and shot straight up. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And people saw these orbs detach from the main object, go out into the environment, and then redock with it later. I mean, incredible technology, to be sure.
So this wasn't just, I was going to say, so there's no way that this was just random flares or Chinese lanterns. One thing that you brought up was the wind flow direction. And that would be one of the very first things that you would check. If it was going against the wind flow, there is no way, unless you had upper stream jet or something, but it's still, it would not make them organize into specific patterns the way that you're
Plus, it was
describing.
right above people's heads, rooftop level. And you know, when you talk about flares, and I want to get to the consciousness thing and answer your question, Tori. But when you talk about flares, which was the only explanation they ever came up with, I mean, there is so much to this story and how the flare theory even got to be. But they had to come up with something, because there was a USA Today article that came out June 18th that opened it up to international scrutiny. And overnight, we didn't have social media. It went viral every morning. National show, Peter Jennings, Dan Rather, they had to come up with something. And our former governor, Fife Symington, called a press conference after nothing. It was silent. I mean, it was crickets till then. And then suddenly he brings out his aide with a big giant alien head costume and made a mockery of it, which wasn't a joke for the witnesses themselves, including myself, because I called every military base after that, and they wanted to see what I had. They wanted me to meet with them, and I didn't want anything to do with that. I was staying anonymous. But the bottom line is that there is so much more to this story. And actually, 3 years after the mass sighting, and this is important too, most ufologists have no idea that this happened. 3 years after, Frances Barwood, councilwoman, who was the only elected official who asked innocently in May because she got over 1,000 calls and communications from her
Wow.
constituents. She asked for an investigation, and she was plastered by the media, the ridicule, the snickering. I was so happy to stay anonymous and just do my homework, really, and learn, what was going on. But in the meantime, 3 years later, she was running for Secretary of State on a platform to get answers for the lights over Phoenix and asking for a reenactment, which was brilliant, right before the 3rd anniversary. People don't know this, which really nips the flare thing in the bud. We got an announcement that 3 Air National Guards were coming into town to show everybody the Phoenix lights. They must have thought we either forgot or whatever, and they must have been practicing. I think they were from New York, Michigan, and California, if I'm correct, and talk about a joke. If you go to the news page on the Phoenix Lights Network website and scroll down to about 3/4 down, you'll see a box that says AZ family. And the media was out. Witnesses were out to see them reenacted. Hey, show me. I'm a show me person, right? Well, they tried to make a triangle. It was upside down, fell apart immediately, had huge smoke trails. That's what flares do. And not one person that saw the true unknowns ever, described that. Exactly. There you go. The top row are the unknowns, and the bottom, you can see the difference. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Yes, maybe they sent off flares because they knew, by the way, they were well aware of what was happening at Luke Air Force Base, and I'm sure the other bases too, because at 3 a.m. there was a call to the National UFO Reporting Center by an alleged crewman from Luke Air Force Base to the National UFO Reporting Center in Seattle, Peter Davenport. It's all recorded. We have some of that recording in the documentary so people can hear straight from the person that jets were sent out. And we have civilians that saw this happening with afterburners from Luke Air Force Base to intercept and get gun camera film, which I heard that they did. I haven't seen it, of one of these massive over mile wide craft hovering right over central Phoenix. And as they approached, the lights started to dim. And as they got closer, the entire craft blinked out and disappeared. Okay. And after the Luke Air Force jets left, there were civilians that saw it reappear and continue slowly on its way, unobtrusively,
Unreal.
over South Mountain, just like it did 2 months before. So there is so much to this story. And to answer your question, Terry, again, there's not one credible report of harm, threat, or abduction associated with the phenomenon. If anything, it was just the opposite. People were in awe. The cars pulled over. They were in wonder. They were curious. It changed people's lives forever. And also, interestingly, again, half my book's about this, there were a number of witnesses to the Phoenix Lights who also had near-death experiences as children that was reawakened by the mass sighting.
Amazing.
Dr.
And that
Kitei.
really got me because I did too. I mean, I don't have time to get into it, but I lay it all out there in the
You
book.
just blew
Okay,
Mindy's
you're talking-
mind.
okay.
Well, Dr.
But I
Lynn,
thought-
I don't know if you know, I actually wrote a book about my near-death experience and then seeing UFOs afterwards. I
Right.
had no idea that was related to the Phoenix
I
Lights
had
as
a
well.
near-death experience and then saw a UFO. How crazy is that? So that's a statistic. It's a pattern.
Well, that's
So
so I
oh,
didn't know any of this stuff, right? So I
Mhm.
started looking for credible information. And
Right.
lo and behold, Dr. Kenneth Ring, I don't know if you've heard of him, the
Uh-huh.
Omega Project,
Yeah.
and I've even spoken to him, and he was one of the people that helped me come forward actually
Oh,
at the
he's a
University of
sweetheart.
Connecticut. Oh yes, dear to God. And John Mack. They
Yeah.
were all studying the connection. In fact, my very first presentation was
Mhm.
at the University of Arizona Tucson Medical Center with John Mack, which kind of freaked me out a little bit because
Ah,
to me, this is all contact, and I didn't want to be associated with abduction. Okay, because again, there isn't one report of abduction, but
Right.
he was so thrilled that I presented. I was nervous. This was a month before I came forward in 2004, and my photo data confirmed what he was going to talk about because then if I'm showing that there's actually things in the sky that we can't explain,
Right.
maybe there's somebody driving those things, okay, and
uh-huh.
behind those things.
Mhm.
So he was thrilled, and he was working on a book about the connection between all unexplained phenomena. And
Mm.
as I was studying this, I thought, whoa, could there be a connection between unexplained aerial phenomena, near-death experience, out-of-body experience that associated with a mystical light in the experience? And lo and behold, again, I started finding such credible data. I started documenting everything. I lay it out really simply in the book. Not only is the experience very similar, whatever the
Right.
unexplained phenomena, but
Right.
the after effect, the awakening, the enlightenment,
Mhm.
the positive transformation. I started calling them all. There we go. There's the latest edition of the book. I keep adding chapters to the original book because the original book was 750-page journal. You asked at
Wow.
the very beginning how I
Wow.
came to this because I did not want to come forward, but I had accumulated after 7 years of anonymity such incredible data and went back to work at the Arizona Heart Institute as the chief clinical consultant of the Wellness and Imaging Center, the heart test, and I had this little cubbyhole office, and nobody knew what I was doing. And in between patients, I took that 750-page journal of such incredible data. I mean, as a scientist, I wanted to be pragmatic. As a physician, I wanted to let people know that they're not alone, even though most
Yes.
anomalies can be explained.
You're
But
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Mentioning
someone has an experience, it's real to them. And I just had to let people they're not alone. Or just because we don't have the technology yet to definitively define what these things are, it doesn't
Right.
mean they're not real. We may be looking
Right.
on the AM dial for an FM frequency. As an experiencer, I certainly understood it, and as an educator, finally, I behind closed doors, I started just editing down the most credible data from that 750-page journal, and finally came out with the book in March of 2004. I figured, you know what, I'm just letting it out there. After much soul searching, I did not want to come forward. It was very dangerous then
Right.
to come
Yes.
forward.
speaking of your book, Dr. Katai, you're
Okay.
an award-winning Phoenix Lights. You have a award-winning Phoenix Lights documentary and a book that has reached audiences around the world. So, what impact do you think your work has had on both the public and the UFO research community?
Good question.
That's another great question. All your questions are really terrific, and I really appreciate you asking them and having me here to share because I didn't know what was going to happen when I came forward. I was really scared. I really was.
You're truly
And
here, one of the first. I mean, seriously.
well, at the time, it was dangerous.
I know it was.
But I figured, you know what? It is what it is. Not only, what happened with the Phoenix Lights, and I actually sat in front of the TVs. I mean, you might like this story real quick. I don't know if we have time, but a couple weeks before the mass setting, my husband was getting a little annoyed with me because I kept running out to the scientist and me to
As one
document
does.
these things, right? And
It happens.
I thought, you know what? I have to find out what's going on. So this is how close I was, guys. A friend of a friend had a neighbor who had a friend who knew the past president of MUFON, okay, Mutual UFO Network. And I called him up. He hadn't heard about it, but there were other people that were seeing it and documenting on film, that, as well as myself. And I said, look, I have a picture from 95 that I know is authentic, but I'd like somebody of credence to take a look at it. He refers me to a field investigator. Talk about a coincidence. The following Wednesday, who calls me on Tuesday, postponed, because then State Director Tom Taylor wanted to be there, but his mom had passed on Saturday. The funeral was Wednesday. The only window of opportunity I had for the next 2-3 weeks was Friday morning. He said, fine. I knock on his door. He opens the door. The first thing he says to me is, did you see the mad sighting last night? And I said, whoa, I saw something similar to what I told you I saw 2 months ago. In fact, I took video of it last night. He said, great, because NBC was coming to interview him in a half an hour. I said, whoa, I don't know what we're dealing with here. I don't know if it's a hoax or military or whatever. But again, it's not about me. It's about the data. And I said, take a copy of the video, show it to whoever. I'm out of here. And I also told him that I had called the air traffic controllers, which you told everybody about the pilots. But that afternoon, I sat in front of my TV. I didn't know if they'd even cover it. And suddenly, breaking news with my video on every news station.
Well, what I've
really
noticed lately, what I've
What's
noticed
that?
lately, especially in the frequency analysis work that I'm doing, is how the public is starting to crave something measurable, not just lights or testimonies, but real structural data. That's in both the Mindy Daytona case that I analyzed, where we found the 504 hertz signal layered in those events. So even though they're very different from the Phoenix lights in format, the public response, I think, felt similar. People could sense that something was being communicated, even if we don't fully understand its translation yet.
Exactly. And, that set it off. After thousands of people saw what I had been seeing, that's when I pushed my whole medical career aside. I truly did, to try to find a logical source and meaning for what I had witnessed and photographed. And you guys know this, once you see something that is a true unknown,
right,
it changes your life forever. That's why I'm doing this study, the
I
scientific
tell
study.
everybody that. And I tell everybody that. And, if they don't know, they don't know. This is why it's so important to reiterate that, because once it happens, it is life changing. You can never go back to being who you were, or, following any of the conversations you used to have. So, yes, thank you for bringing that
and
up.
the conversation you had prior to us going on, that ball of light or whatever it was could have definitely done something deleterious, but they didn't. And it's interesting when you look at the data. I always say, look at the data, it speaks for itself. That these things are touching one person at a time.
Right.
And waking them up to not only their presence in a very gentle, non-threatening way. And I'm not saying there aren't other things out there. There are other things out there, and it's all our perception too, and how we deal with that situation. But in our study, we're finding this is happening worldwide. I mean, I did it primarily to find Phoenix Lights witnesses in Arizona. And not only did we find them, if you go on the website, Phoenix Lights Network, on the landing page, there's a triangle, and underneath there's an enter to the website. Underneath that, anybody out there that did see the Phoenix Lights on March 13th, 1997, please, we're still doing the study. We would love you to join us, because it is really showing. I'm working with a PhD professor as well as an MD who is in my book. He and his family were coming up from Tucson to a swim meet in Phoenix. And there's so much to this story. His wife got telepathic messages, and so did others, not to be afraid. He was actually in the passenger seat and looked out the window. One of these craft was right above their car for a long time. He really got to see it. And he also had a near-death experience as a child, which was really interesting. The three of us have joined forces. And what we're finding is mind-boggling. I mean, not only is this happening worldwide, same phenomena, as you all know, the black triangles and the orbs and all that, but they're touching people at a very profound level and waking them up to their presence, and also my book really gets into how it's affecting people, and so is our study. And across the board, and that's why the study is so important, scientific study that's really showing scientifically that people are changed to the positive. Okay,
Yes.
even when people might have an uncomfortable situation, and I'm sure you've heard this on and on. If they get therapy, suddenly they have a relationship with that entity. I mean, it's amazing. And not only, and I'm giving you a little tidbit here. We haven't published it yet. We have peer review. We have a Society for Scientific Exploration was really impressed by our presentation, and we're now writing a paper for them, and then we'll publish it. But number one, people not only were changed and happier in the end, okay, and wanted over 90, like 99% wanted it to continue, And many people in these orbs felt as native cultures. And that's a whole nother thing, because these kept appearing. If you look at the topography and where these keep popping up, for me, from my vantage point, it's right where South Mountain and the Estrellas intersect. And in between is the Gila Bend Indian Reservation, Native Americans. And coincidentally, I met with them 6 months before to present my substance abuse program, prevention education program, got friendly with the principal. They don't talk to outsiders, but I went to him after the mass sighting and I said, did anybody happen to see strange lights on March 13th? And he started to giggle. And I said, is that funny? He said, are you kidding? I've been looking up at them for centuries. We call them sky people, light beings. I had no idea. Not only was the Estrellas means star in Spanish. It was named for these phenomena. But there's petroglyphs up there. And also they believe there's a gateway or portal in that area. And again, in science, we look for repeatability, and continuously these phenomena keep popping up in that area from my vantage point. So there's a really integral connection to the native cultures, indigenous cultures worldwide. They're very open to these phenomena. I had no idea.
We have a question from one of our audience members, and they said, Dr. Lynne, do you know the Paranormal Rangers? Have you gotten to speak to John Dover?
Oh, are you kidding? Want to hear a funny story?
Let's hear it. John is one of my very best friends, so I am all for hearing anything about him and what he's been up to.
This is a good story because I was at a conference here speaking, and suddenly John and Stan, John Dover and Stan Milford, who wrote the book, came up to me and they said, there was a big sighting the day before the mass sighting over the Navajo Range. And I said, really? He said, they're very open to these things. A lot's happening up there. And in Loop, Leupp, these orbs were going around in circles, giant circles, changing color, and then they would change direction. And they're so used to this and welcome it that the whole town brought their lawn chairs out to watch. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
And for an hour, they watched this. And I said to them, would you be open to share this? And they said, sure. So I started scheduling dates for them to share on TV. And because I used to do health reporting. I started doing health reporting in '76 at NBC in Philadelphia, and the syndication grew from that. Was showing at CBS when we moved here in 1980, and then NBC asked me to start a program for them. So I knew all the news people from the early '80s when I was doing health reporting. When I came forward in 2004, they knew my credibility. And and Village Labs, which was a clearinghouse here, one of the clearinghouses, and I had my stuff analyzed at University of Arizona Optical Science Department, Brooks Institute of Photography, Navy optical physicist Dr. Bruce Magby. There's a whole story with him and my pictures and missing time. That's another hour. But at any rate, they were so terrific that when I came forward, and Village Labs called the person that had the pictures, because I really did stay anonymous, Dr. X. So when I came forward, they said, you're Dr. X, well, come on over. And they were so kind. The media here has been so welcoming and wonderful. And every year they cover our anniversary, and I have a big event. People, please look on our website for that if you're in the area.
How wonderful.
I mean, there's a lot going on. But anyway, now not only does the Navajo Rangers, they're part of our cast with Travis Walton and witnesses every year. We're sold out every year in March, the weekend after the March 13th event. But now they're writing books, they're going on TV,
Yes.
they're on Ancient
They're part
Aliens.
of the Bureau now.
Great.
They
It's
actually
wonderful.
head up all of the Indigenous reports that come in through the Bureau. So
Yeah.
we couldn't have a
Excellent.
better team.
Yes, exemplary, exemplary. And they're amazing, amazing people as well.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Well,
Good.
we've just completely flown off of our lineup here of questions. So I'm just going to go back, Dr. Lynne, over to the fact that you were looking into Dr. Kenneth Ring's research and that you're finding the same things, that it changes people. I know he had the encounter prone personality and then the set of after effects that he found in both the UFO experiencers and the near-death experiencers. I am just absolutely fascinated. I did not expect that conversation to come up today because it was one of the big changes for me coming from a near-death experience was finding Dr. Ring's work. And he has just influenced so many wonderful researchers now. And people are finally catching on to what he knew years ago. And, you know, people didn't really believe anything he had to say, but I'm sure that it's been much the same for you, just reading through the Omega Project and understanding that it's still happening today, the changes that it brings about in people.
Well, I started calling all unexplained phenomena an UP, UP, and up, because it wasn't up. I mean, it's a positive transformation, and it's just proven time and time again. And I lay it out, by the way, guys, very simply in the book, that each of the, whether it's near-death experience, out-of-body, unexplained aerial phenomena, the experience itself, which also blew me away, very similar when you really look at the data, but the after effect and how it really, really touches people at such a deep level. That's the 4th edition of my book. They wanted me to write another book. When our former governor, who mocked the sighting in 97, in 2010, came forward to say he actually saw one of these craft, mile-wide craft, and he's an awarded military pilot, and in his own personal estimation, one, it definitely wasn't flares, it was a craft, but he called it something that we didn't even get into that discussion, that countries worldwide are much more open to these phenomena and studying these phenomena and call them otherworldly. And that's the word that he used, that what he saw was otherworldly. And there's our award-winning, we've won over a dozen International Film Festival awards. In fact, it was the first one of this topic on iTunes in the
My
day.
goodness.
And we came forward in 2005 with the documentary. Now, you can only get the DVD now, if anybody's interested, through the website and through PayPal, because there's bonus features. We have such incredible people in this. It's a real grassroots effort, but we have astronaut Edgar Mitchell, and he talks about the cover up in the bonus features, but he's throughout the documentary as well. He was being conferred with while it was happening, which with Village Labs, while the mass
Really?
sighting. I had no idea until I interviewed him years later, and he is amazing. We also have a 911 police operator who was on call that night. They said they hardly got any calls, and she came forward. She came up to me at a presentation at the Glendale Library, and she said, "I hear that they said that we didn't get any calls." I said, "Well, that's what they said." She said, "We got hundreds of calls."
Oh my
They're all
goodness.
very consistent. And we have a pilot that saw one of the craft, and he was in ammunitions and knew about flares. I mean, and wonderful. Ruth Hover, if you know her, she used to have a group, and she was the one person. She was amazing. She would have contact and abduction people in her group, and she made it very clear that even people that might have had an uncomfortable experience while it was happening, ultimately working through it and sharing it. And I always say, sharing with one person is healing. It's cathartic. That was the other
Absolutely.
reason I came forward as a physician, because if you keep it inside, as you guys probably know, it festers, and that's not healthy. So
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, message me on Facebook or email me. You can get there through the website. Just sharing with one person is very healing. So,
It
that's part of
is.
the whole story too. And one of the main reasons I came forward, besides to set the record straight, because there's a lot of mis and disinformation out there.
Yeah.
And I hope that, your audience learned something new today.
You know,
Absolutely.
one thing I would like to ask you, because I've had several different experiences, and my first one was so profound, life-changing. I never really felt like I knew for sure and certain why I was chosen, although my life path changed 180 degrees, as did yours. So I want to ask you, why do you think, deep down inside, why they chose you? Because obviously they knew you were going to carry this all the way home.
You know what? It's a choice. My husband didn't want anything to do with it. He just didn't understand why I was pushing my medical career aside to do this. And he saw it. He was the one, whatever comes up, I say, hey, you were the one that first called me to our big picture window in our bedroom to see it. It was right outside our bedroom window, these three
Right?
orbs. And
You
that started the
expose it.
ball rolling.
Yeah.
But he gets it. In fact, many of his patients came in and said, I read your wife's book, blah, blah, blah. It really changed my life. And that's the other thing. I didn't realize that the book would really help people transform, because I started out,
Yes.
I'm a healthy skeptic, and I was looking feverishly for a logical explanation for what I witnessed and photographed. I have yet to find one. If anything, what I did find when I looked into this topic opened up a whole new world to me that I felt ultimately, as a scientist, as a physician, as an experiencer, and certainly as an educator of vital health issues, it was important, most important, to share this vital issue and let people decide for themselves. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. It is
Right.
what it is. How
Right.
the
Provide the
story
evidence.
unfolded, how it affected people. And now we have the scientific study to confirm that as well. And I hope people take a look at the data and decide for themselves. There's a plethora of information, and there's much more, if you can believe it. There's much more to the story that we didn't even get to. But we saved that for another day. But at least we got really the most important aspects of the Phoenix Lights, because the Phoenix Lights now are, the most witnessed, the most
Yeah.
documented, the most important mass anomalous aerial sighted in modern history, if not all of history. And, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the data. I chose to compile it, to study it, to put it together so that people could learn and grow if they choose. And, whatever I can do to help in that behalf, I have. If you read the book, I surrendered. I was like, okay.
Thankfully, you did.
My
Well,
goodness.
yeah, I mean, I didn't know why I had this data. I didn't know anything about this topic. And my friend said, hey, Lynne, you've been doing this with vital health issues decades. If anybody can do something credible and professional with this, you can. And I asked for, I said, hey, lead the way, to show me, in the puzzle pieces keep fitting together. I don't know
Yeah.
where it's going to lead, but it led me to you and your wonderful audience. So thank you for having me and letting me share some of the story of the Phoenix Lights. So yes.
It's been a pleasure having you here with us today.
Yes. It has been wonderful.
I
So,
really appreciate being here. Thank you.
sure.
So we have a couple extra minutes before we are done. Do we have any other
Okay,
questions?
want me to tell you the story? You want me to tell you the story about the Raising Arizona real quick?
We only
Yes, please
2
share that
minutes.
really quick.
Is that it?
Go fast.
Little trivia, because before I went to medical school, I was in professional musical theater, Broadway, toured with Ward and McCrae in Oklahoma, and Betty Grable and Guys and Dolls, and understudied Barbie and Sound of Music, and a whole host of other shows, and also played the part of Florence, Arizona in the Coen Brothers 20th Century Fox hit Raising Arizona with Nicolas Cage and Holly Hunter and Frances Dorman and John Goodman. I mean, the cast was incredible. And I had no idea to be honest. After I came forward in 2004, I started touring and doing conferences. And about 2006-07, someone came up to me because they got wind that I had done the movie and it was such an iconic movie. They mentioned it. And a guy said, there's a reference to your character, the only reference to UFOs in the whole film in 87, 10 years
Oh my
before the
goodness.
mass sighting, to UFOs. And I didn't even remember. I hadn't watched the movie since the 80s. And if anybody watches it, after Nicolas Cage and Holly Hunter, who can't conceive, it's a black comedy, they kidnap one of the Arizona quintuplets, and I'm the mother. And they have a press conference, and one of the reporters sticks a microphone in my husband's face and says, "There's a rumor your son was abducted by UFOs. Any truth to that?" And my husband says, "Oh, please, son, please don't print that. If his mama reads that, she'll lose all hope," which is totally opposite from my own take. But nonetheless, the only reference in the entire film, but it gets better. Because the cinematographer, who was also just getting started, went on to do big with Tom Hanks, When Harry Met Sally, with Billy Crystal and the Addams Family, and How the West Was Won, and, drum roll, created and directed the Men in Black series.
Oh my goodness.
Which opened, Barry Sonnenfeld, it opened, the premiere was 1997, the same year as the Phoenix Lights. Coincidence?
Oh my goodness.
My
More
goodness.
synchronicities that it's amazing how they pop up. Dr. Lynne, thank you so much for joining us today. I hate to even let you go. We could continue talking for about 2 more hours, I'm sure, and we will. Yeah. So I know before we came into the show, we were talking about maybe meeting up here in a few months, and we'll be working on setting that up. So thank you so much for sharing all of your insight today.
Yes.
Yes. And for our audience, if you had witnessed the Phoenix Lights firsthand, do you think it would have changed your view of UFO phenomenon?
I bet it would.
Yeah.
I bet so too.
And Terry?
Well, can I just interject one other thing? We're just starting to get together another study where we're comparing the Phoenix Lights mass sighting to the Hudson Valley sighting, which was very similar.
Excellent.
So, keep in touch.
Okay.
Stay
Yes,
tuned.
we do have to wrap. So next week's guest, we're having Daryl Clulow on, and he is the Assistant National Response Director at Area 51.
Not at Area 51.
No, Area 51.
At the Bureau. He'll be
Bureau.
talking about Area 51.
I'm so sorry. And so, yeah, and we're talking about Area 51 and the Vegas encounter. And Melissa next week will be sharing the analysis of the Vegas entity. So you don't want to miss that. Again, thank you, Dr. Kitei. We are so happy to have had you on, and we will get you back.
Yes.
Thank you. And keep looking up. Now you know it's a double entendre.
Yep. As always, thank you guys for joining us on the Bureau. Visit internationalufobureau.com and follow us on social media to stay connected. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and never stop demanding the truth.
Thank you for joining us today on the Bureau. For exclusive content, follow the International UFO Bureau on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. From yesterday's sightings to tomorrow's revelations, be sure to tune in next time right here only on KGRA, Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern.